today I want to talk about why and how and what to do when your ex tries to portray you as an unfit parent. This is something I see regularly with my clients. Usually it's aimed at the parent who's actually been the most involved, who has been the more nurturing and loving parent. Suddenly, when it comes to family court, the other parent turns everything on its head. They're the ones who is the hero parent, and you suddenly become unfit. So let's take a deep dive into that. So first off, let's look at the why. Why do they do that? Well, the most obvious thing is it's about controlling you and regaining power. When you separate from them, they lose, in their minds, they've lost all control. So they're constantly trying to claw it back. And in painting you as an unfit parent, that gives them some control, particularly over the narrative, but also over you, because you can then work extra hard, like trying to prove that you're not. So even if they're not controlling you directly, the process that they create then controls you, because you're having to jump through hoops, you're having to prove your worthiness as a parent. So they, by proxy, control you and have some power over you through that. There's also a lot of projection going on for them. That they wouldn't consciously know this, but they project their feelings of unworthiness as a parent, their feelings of just not being good enough, and any of their own shortcomings. They'll just project all of that out onto you. So anything that they've done, boom, you did that. So it's that, it's basically that deflect of, it's not me, it's not about me, I haven't done anything wrong, it's all you. And all of their behaviors will be given to you. You did them, because that soothes them on some level, that it allows them to go, oh, phew, it wasn't me, it must have been you. And they retell history in their own mind that they are innocent and they are brilliant and they are wonderful, and you are the problem, because that suits their internal narrative and their false sense of self. Usually, if you're being accused of alienation, or the one who's an unfit parent, that is an alienation tactic, whether you're the resident parent or not. Now, that's a contentious term, but the behaviors, what it results in is the alienation of that relationship. It can be used to the children against you. It can be used to diminish the time spent with you, whether that be through safeguarding procedures or the children rejecting you themselves. But in declaring you the unfit parent, they are alienating you from that child. Whether, like say, the child is going, they can't keep me safe because of the messaging that they're receiving, and therefore they don't want to spend time with you, or professionals are stepping in and saying, you're not safe, you're unfit, and therefore the time with you needs to be reduced or managed in some way, shape, or form. It's obviously a legal maneuver, a legal tactic aimed to get leverage. This will also work in the financial courts as well. So if they can leverage themselves above you, which meets all of their internal needs, but from an external perspective, it can give them more power within the process. They can be the one that dictates what content you do have, when you have it. They are the ones that get to veto whether the children are happy to see you or not, when contact will happen, where it will happen. They get full leverage to do that if they are able to successfully deem you as being unfit and unsafe. That leverage can then be used to get a court order to their advantage. Now, that might be that they get 50-50 and don't have to pay child maintenance. And in the financial proceedings, it means that they might have to pay you less. So there's a lot of knock-ons of basically blaming you and your behavior and saying that you are an unfit parent. It means that they can get that control they're looking at, and also elevate themselves within the process as a victim, really, and a rescuer of the children, which gives them leverage. Revenge and punishment. It's either that you left them or you abandoned them. Even if they left the relationship, in their mind, they've decided that it's your fault. In some way, shape, or form, you abandoned them. You weren't able to meet their needs, and therefore you were abusive. Now, lots of relationships break up because they're not suitable for one another, they run their course, or they're not able to meet each other's needs because they're actually it's down to the individual to meet their own needs, or they're asking for too much. And I use those words very carefully. What I'm saying is that the ending of a relationship would only become a matter for revenge and punishment when there is one very unhealthy parent. And obviously, it's the unhealthy parent that is saying you're the unhealthy parent. They are twisting that narrative. They are using the Darvo tactic of denying any of their own shortcomings and attacking you and your parenting, reversing that victim and offender roles. And it is the ultimate punishment. Cutting you out of your child's life, reducing your contact, reducing your parental rights, your ability to discipline your children, your ability to attend children's events. That is hugely devastating for a parent, particularly a parent who's been very actively involved in their children's lives. But for any parent to be punished simply for ending a relationship and using the children to do that is it's the ultimate revenge, isn't it? And finally, it's emotional manipulation. It is the manipulation of the child in this drip feed of very often subtle ways of saying that you are unfit. So it might be when they say goodbye, ring me if you need to, ring me if there's a problem. Therefore, subconsciously implying there might be a problem. You might not be safe. And it's that constant drip feed that can eventually lead to bigger lies and bigger manipulations. And it almost creates this avalanche of within the child's mind of you not being safe and you being unfit. And then that added to the narrative they presented to court, when you get the children to almost back them up, then that's very powerful to a court to listen to you saying that and the children saying that. It can be how the alienation, those cracks and that reduction in time can really take legal hold within the relationships. How do they go about it? And obviously I've discussed some of the ways that they do that when going through that, but let's go into a little bit more depth. The first one is obviously false allegations. It's a very boom, straight to the point way of saying you're an unfit parent, accusing you of domestic abuse, sexual abuse of the child, emotional abuse of the child, coercive control, any form of abuse that they label you as perpetrating. That obviously undermines your ability. Within the current guidance, it will be seen as undermining your ability to be a safe and healthy parent, particularly with the latest guidance that has come out regarding responding to allegations of alienation and resisting and refusing dynamics, as well as Kafka's latest domestic abuse guidance, which very clearly says if someone is domestic abusing, and we have to believe all victims, we have to take that seriously, then a domestic abuse, children are victims themselves of that just by witnessing that and the environment that they create. So as soon as a domestic abuse allegation is made, boom, in people's mind, you must be an unfit parent. You are a child abuser because they have witnessed it. And it takes time to unpick that. For instance, using social media. So a lot of parents will start posting on their social media articles about domestic abuse. They might not say directly, you did this to them, but there's this very covert way of presenting the information that makes it pretty clear who they're talking about. You've just separated, suddenly they're posting domestic abuse information. Oh, A plus B equals C. That can again be used to gather flying monkeys and create that smear campaign whereby you are collectively seen as being an unfit parent. Twisting conversations. Narcissists love to do this. So there might be a day's worth of conversation in either text messages or emails back and forth. And eventually you lose your temper and say something, oh, great. That's the only bit that will get shown. They won't show the entire context of that conversation. They won't show all the times they called you worse and all the ways that they've been winding you up. They will just show your response. And that twisting and that selective evidencing can really add to that narrative that you are an unfit parent. So if, for example, you were to lash out at them, then again, it could fit into the domestic abuse or the coercive control category, when actually it's just a response to how you've been treated and part of a much bigger conversation and a much bigger pattern of behavior. Influencing children. So I've talked about that, but this is happening by osmosis. When this is going on, the children are picking up on this, whether it's being overtly done in front of them and or they're being drip fed this narrative, or whether they are it's all very covert and done quite subtly, then it's happening. The children are being influenced. Children are sponges. They pick up on their environment more than we can imagine because we've shut down so much of that. They are so sensitive to it, especially if they've been raised in an environment where they have become hypersensitive to it. If there's been a lot of shouting or a lot of emotional abuse within the relationship when you all live together, they picked up on that. They know they're walking on eggshells a lot of the time, but it can get distorted through that drip feeding of what really happened. They can the parent who is actually unfit but is claiming that you are unfit can distort the narrative and create false memories. So if the children remember things a certain way, it doesn't take much to actually go, no, that's not how it was. It was like this. Don't you remember? You were doing this. And children's brains are so malleable that they can quite easily take on board those false memories. And there's so much research. I've written a blog and a paper on this, which they can have a look at on the website. But it's scientifically proven that we can easily create, and we do create false memories ourselves. I've had conversations with my mum about things that have happened I remember from my childhood never happened. Because it's just the way our brains work, but they can manipulate that malleability of a child's brain into getting the children to believe that actually you are unfit. And like I say, if they can get the children to say that, then that adds a lot of weight. And I've talked about the smear campaign, how you can recruit flying monkeys by telling them their side of the story, by making these subtle clues, by going into school and saying, father can't pick the children up from school at the moment. Even if they don't go into great depth, that is enough. That's very subtle, but it's enough. Again, might be the other way around. Might be father goes into the school and says, I'm a bit worried about mum's mental health. If you could just keep an eye on her for me, I'd really appreciate it. Obviously, I'm concerned about the children. Again, just the subtleness of it plants a seed within people. You come in a bad mood one day or come in slightly unsheveled because you're running late, which we've all done. A plus B equals C. So it's being mindful of that. Exploiting weaknesses. So you've been in a relationship with someone who has constantly undermined you and belittled everything that you do, every part of your personality. All the things that they said they loved about you at the start have suddenly become all the things that they hate about you, and that are your or weaknesses, the awful things about you. And we have them. We all have them. They are planted, those beliefs are planted in our own childhood. Those beliefs that we're not good enough. Those beliefs that we don't deserve love, that we don't know how to get love, that we only give to receive love. That it's all there. They just exploit them. And then as part of this process, they tap on them all the time. They literally stick their finger in your wound and make it worse because they've got to know you. They've deliberately, in the effort of trying to make it look like they're interested in you and they're courting you, as my parents would have said, then they get to know all of those weaknesses, those chinks in you, those beliefs, those vulnerabilities, and then they will exploit them. And so when they say Charlie came to contact and was untidy, you need to take more care of him. There's a part of you with that wound that goes, ow, oh, okay, maybe I'm not, even if consciously, no, it was perfectly clean, or it might have got muddy at school, or whatever. There is that wound inside of you that is still there. And So you can then find yourself behaving in ways you might overly defend yourself and fall into a trap of coming across as being aggressive. It's really important to be mindful of that. As we move into the what can you do about it, that's part of what we're going to look at. I'm going to talk about this first is, first of all, regulate your emotions. When they send you something like that, just poke at a wound, don't go into flight or fight. Breathe, step away, give yourself as long as possible to respond. And if you don't have to respond, don't. But focus on regulating your own emotions. That is the greatest gift you can give your children, knowing that you're not being traumatized and be or able to manage your trauma much better by regulating your emotions is the most powerful gift you can give your children. So that's the first thing for you to do when they say that you are unfit or abusive in some way, shape, or form. Rather than go on the defensive, go inward and regulate, and then look at, do I believe that? On some level, do I believe that? That requires you to have a very honest conversation with yourself or your therapist. But do it, because it will unearth so much. And if you think about it, like there's a load of buttons inside of you, and these are all pre-planted wounds, pre-planted beliefs. They're trigger points. They're your trigger points. If you start taking those or deactivating those buttons that they are pressing to get you to react, when you deactivate them, that annoys the hell out of them, and then that's what trigger point for them. So their behavior becomes more pronounced and will give you more evidence of their harmful behavior and their unfit parenting. So heal yourself, do that work, regulate your emotions. And if you need help with that, I do recommend attending our Safe and Secure workshop, which is taking place on the 18th of January. And I will put the details in the description so you can register. It's a totally free workshop, but it will help you with all of those things. So the next thing is document. Just document everything. So rather than react, document, just write it down. Write down exactly what happened, exactly what was said. Download the conversation straight away into a text format. You can get apps that can do that. Download it all so that you've got it. Then what you want to do is start organizing the evidence into those patterns. What are they doing? Are they gaslighting you? Are they making false allegations? Start to organize your evidence. Again, Master Your Evidence is our course, which talks you how to do that, and has our evidence tracker, which is our unique system to help you to prove abuse, show alienating behavior. Get legal advice. Once you started seeing these patterns, or even straight away, get legal advice. Speak to someone who understands it. Again, I can share with you a Selecting the Right Solicitor information. There's a blog on my website. There's videos. Have a look at them. Focus on your own parenting. That's the most important thing here. If you're going to protect your children, is keep your eyes on your own parenting. Focus on what you can control, even if that's only 5%. Make sure your 5% is the best 5% going. Again, if you need help, do register for our Safe and Secure workshop. That will give you lots of great tools and to be able to focus on your parenting and be the best possible version. But equally, do some parenting courses. They're not going to do you any harm. And you can say, I've attended this course, I've attended that course. They will show that you are making an effort. Counteract the narrative. So both within your children. So what I mean by that is not to, again, defend yourself, but to remember that meeting children's needs, that is countering the narrative. If you're an unfit parent, you will defend. If you are a fit parent, you will focus on your children's needs in that moment. Again, I'm mindful of the terminology of that. I'm not saying that you're unfit if you react. If you're always reacting, if you're always dysregulating, you're more likely to be unfit. If you're able to, every once in a while, we all react. But the more you're able to go in and have healed those wounds so you can be present for your child, you are countering that narrative for your children by doing and being present for them. That's really strong. For the external family court and the professionals, just don't get into a he said, she said argument. Focus on the facts. Focus on what you can present and what you can prove. That is how you counteract the narrative. You use your evidence to tell the truth. You use your evidence to tell a solid, strong, forensically sound narrative of what's really going on here. If you can get any reports from school, nurses, anyone that's been involved in the child that has an independent view of what is going on, not that it's been fed information by you, because again, that will be easy for them to say, we dismiss that because they've only heard one side of the story. You need independent witnesses where possible. Not saying don't use other reports, but I'm just warning you in advance, they are easier to dismiss and to argue against. If you've got school who see the kids all the time and you haven't been feeding them a narrative, they're seeing certain things, or they've had interactions with a certain parent and they're willing, schools aren't often willing. If you can get any independent witness reports, that'd be great. Focus on your self-care, and obviously parallel parent, which is self-care. Parallel parent is saying, I'm just staying in my lane. I'm going to focus on my bit. I'm not going to get engaged in conversation with them. I'm not going to allow myself to be controlled and triggered by them. They do their thing. I'll do mine. Again, there's lots of information about parallel parenting on the website. I hope you found that helpful. I will again just say, if you something you are struggling with, our court prep toolkit has all the tools that you need to help you build a really strong and solid case. We talk specifically about child focused concerns, how to present them, and how to work with professionals. There's also the I am safe element, which is to help you work on those traumas and triggers. So I will leave the link for that in the description below as well. Do take care, everyone. Thank you.